Richie, Nick Saban had a comment on College Game Day on Sunday, and I want you. I'm sure you saw it on social media, but I want you to listen to it quickly, and then let's talk about it.
And I really feel for Florida State, who had great expectations for this season. Things didn't work out that way. They never got the culture established. But one thing that I always used, which I thought was my greatest tool as a coach when I was trying to establish culture, was the bench. When guys don't do what they're supposed to do or they don't buy in the way they're supposed to, you put them on the bench. Right. It's an amazing signal that goes from your butt to your brain when you get put on the bench. Right.
Saban basically just kind of questioning the culture at Florida State. Not necessarily that you've got a bunch of guys that are just out, not necessarily doing the wrong things, like morally, I guess is the way, but like I do question just the ability for Florida State to get better. And the guys that consistently just dropped passes over and over and over again, for them to continue to get chances, and for the guys that now don't know how to snap the ball, and for the offensive linemen who just have no clue what they're doing, and the defensive linemen who, was Pat Payton even in the game on Saturday night? Like, did he play at all? The guys that continue to make mistakes over and over, and then, there's QB play. The guys that just couldn't get it done. I just think Norvell, you remember like the fiery guy that he was in 2022 when he's grabbing Deuce Span and you're up by 40 and he's still coaching him up and coaching him hard. And like now he's just soft. He was asked a question last night in the press conference and couldn't even answer it because he looked like he was about to cry. He was just asked a simple question about like, did Luke see the guy running wide open when he threw it to the other, and Norvell just like choked up and like basically just was like, next question. I can't do this. I'm going to cry. I just think he's soft. I don't even know who you would bench on this team because the whole team needs to be benched. And so maybe that's the problem. But what are your thoughts on what Saban had to say on game day on Saturday? I'll get right back to chatting with Richie, but if you work in online marketing or maybe web development, you need a web host you and your clients can depend on. Rapid SEO Host is the top choice for professionals that are serious about results. They have over 15 years of experience. Their team delivers lightning fast load times, marketing expertise, and personalized services that can help you outpace your competition. As SEO specialists, which is right there in the name, they know how to boost your Google rankings and get your clients' websites in front of more people. Plus, you can join their affiliate program, and that lets you get paid to host your sites with no expiration date. They offer maintenance, they offer marketing packages, and they also want to give you access to experts who can help take your business to the next level. Make Rapid SEO Host your partner today. There's a link in the description. You can sign up to get more info or shoot them an email if you have any questions. Appreciate Rapid SEO Host for their support.
Yeah, I thought he hit the nail on the head. And, when you talk about, the best thing for culture was the bench. And we haven't seen that. Like, these guys are getting paid now, so I'll name names. Why is Kentron Porter still on the field? He should be on the bench. I don't care if he's a senior and he knows the offense better than these younger receivers. Does not matter. Same thing for a lot of players on this team that if they continue to make mistakes and make clear errors that are costing your team drives and touchdowns and points and games, and you continue to just roll them out there, well, what does that say to the people behind them? Like, okay, doesn't matter what I do in practice this week. Doesn't matter what happens. I'm not going to get a chance in the game. It's insane. It's ridiculous to me. And I am so frustrated that we continue to throw out these guys. And Mike Norvell refuses to make a decision at quarterback. To go back to that conversation, make a decision. Is it Brock or is it Luke? You cannot have a quarterback battle in season. You need to pick one. I think it needs to be Luke. I'm fine if Brock gets the portal because guess what? One of them are most likely leaving after the season. I don't know their family. I don't know their parents. I don't know their friends, but there's no inside information. One of them will be on Florida State's roster next year.
Let's slow down. Our next, before you get too far to that, our next segment is the QB battle. So I don't want to go too far down that.
Okay. So I'll just go back to the bench where, make decisions. And again, Nick Saban, I thought he made a very phenomenal point, but it's very simple too, that simply if someone's not performing on game day, I don't care how good they do in practice during the week. That's irrelevant to me. At this point in the season, early in the season, yeah, you want to reward those who perform well in practice. But at this point in the season, if you continue to roll out these guys that can't do crap on Saturdays, they need to be on the bench, and you need to encourage them to hit the portal or look for a job in something other than sports. And Mike does not seem to be willing to do that.
Yeah, what's interesting is, it's not just that. Like, people are like, oh, well, who are you going to play behind him? Does it matter? Like, does it really matter who you play behind him? I
Not
mean,
this year.
we scored against Miami, against your biggest in-conference rival. We scored one time outside of the garbage time touchdown. And it was a fluke drive at that, right? Like, I'm glad it happened. And we stopped them one time. Like, they scored on 7 of 8 possessions. You scored on 1 of 8 possessions. Like, would it really matter who else would have been out there? Like, what would have, maybe Miami scores one more time, maybe you score one less time. Like, what really changes in this game if you play different people? Like, to me, that's the big question. The reluctancy to go. I just think Mike's too loyal. I think he's too nice. The way that Mario Cristobal beat the podium, and I don't like Mario. This is not a pro Mario tweet, but like the way that Mario beat the podium and was talking about how, yeah, we're gonna telling the recruits, oh, we're the trajectory and all this bull crap. He cares, and he's not a broken individual, a broken man there on that sideline or in those press conferences. Like, Mike is a broken man right now, and he's way too soft. He's way too loyal. He wouldn't get rid of his coaches. He wouldn't bench DJ. He wouldn't, we were told about several guys that Mike was having exit interviews with, that the guys basically just come back begging, oh, I buy into the culture, and that's more stress on the battle's end because you got, like, there are guys, Florida State is over the, not to put out all the business, but here we are. Florida State is over the scholarship limit. Now, they're not by NCAA standards. They took some guys off of scholarship, but they're over the scholarship limit, and they're just NIL-ing those guys. Like, imagine that. Like, think about that for a minute. Florida State is 1-7.
Your 86th man on the roster is,
They have a roster that the top 30 aren't even good enough to beat Memphis or Georgia Tech or Boston College or Duke. They have a roster that's that bad, yet they're paying guys that are down at 86, 87, 88, 89, 90 because Mike didn't have the balls to let them go. And Mike didn't. Listen, Mike has to treat this more like a business than the old Bobby Bowden, old school, hey, I'm going to raise your son for the next 3 years, whatever. That's not what this is anymore, Mike, because you're not going to have a job. There was no portal back then. Guys were locked in back then. There was no NIL back then. Guys had to stay. Mike is too soft, and he's broken, and he's not the same person that he was. I don't know if just the snub truly did take his soul away, but he doesn't even look like the same person. Like, he's sitting there about to cry. And you remember when they were 0-4 and he was beating the desk and he was saying, we're going to be better every single day. And he was all rah-rah and all that BS. And I don't even want to call it BS because they really did do a good job of fighting back from that. But he's just a broken person at this point. And it's frustrating to see, but again, he just doesn't have the stones. I don't know if he has the stones for it overall. I don't know if he's cut out for what you have to do at Florida State to be good. And there are times where kids are going to come into your office and you don't have room for them and you don't have a scholarship for them, and you don't then put more stress on your NIL organization to pay for their scholarship and pay them, an NIL wage, because you just can't tell people no. Florida State, like, go look at the roster. Florida State is well above the 85. And I'm not talking about, there are guys that are walk-ons that are not on scholarship, but they're being paid, like their scholarship is being paid for through NIL. And so it's just, that's asinine to me, right? And that speaks to me. Norvell's not willing to do the hard things. He's not willing to bench guys. He's not willing to, I've heard stories about, I've heard stories from people at practice, and I guess I'm not in the point to name names because I want to continue to get this info, but I've heard stories about practice where coaches have literally tried to correct a kid, a starter, I'll say that, a starter on the team, tried to correct him, and the kid has literally just looked at the coach and like waved him off and rolled his eyes, and the coach is like, go do that rep again. They're big on, like, if you mess up a rep, you go next. Like, you do the rep again. And the kid's like, just, and walks to the other side and says, like, I'm not doing that again. Like, and that kid had started every game. Like, there was no punishment for that. There was no extra. No, that kid just starts every game. The staff is just soft. And the kid didn't do it to Norvell. And I shouldn't say kid, but the kid didn't do it to Norvell, so maybe that's why. But the staff is soft. They don't hold anybody accountable the way that Mike Norvell isn't holding his coaches accountable. Well, the coaches then don't hold the players accountable. And the kid that did that, the player that did that, sorry, I shouldn't say kid, but the player that did that shouldn't even be on the team anymore, let alone starting 2 days later. It's and again, yeah. So Mike Norvell's not benching anybody. Saban knows what it takes, but Norvell ain't doing that because he doesn't have the heart for it, doesn't have the stones for it.
Yeah, and I forget who coined the phrase, but there's a phrase that you either coach it to happen or you allow it to happen. And Mike Norvell, I think, is in the camp where he's just allowing things to happen, and I just don't think he's cut out for big time college football. I put out on the X today or Twitter a post, whatever you want to call it. Um, I don't think he should be the head coach at Florida State anymore. I really do not. And I hate going public with this, but it's just I truly feel that strongly that 1-7 is not an accident. It happens, and 1-7 certainly does not happen in year 5 when you came into the season with all of this confidence and you know feeling so good about what you had. The offensive line was going to be the one of the best we had. Yeah, we had question marks at quarterback. Okay, question marks at quarterback do not explain 1-7. It just does not happen, and I just think Mike Norvell, he will get another year, 2, 3 years potentially. He is not the long term answer unless he drastically changes his approach. And I don't see that happening. I hope he proves me wrong because we're going to have to start again with another new coach. But yeah, I just do not see it happening. And again, you either coach it to happen or you allow it to happen. And right now, Mike is allowing this to happen, and that is unacceptable.